reason the screen is really small.
Morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unlocked. I'm your show host, Tracy Wilson. Always my pleasure to be here with you. I have got the amazing Alison Armstrong with me today, and I just know that this conversation is going to be a real conversation. I'm going to get to learn loads and loads of stuff about Alison, what it is that she's been up to, and guess what, guys? So are you. So we gave this topic today the name of how to crack the code on men and women. And I was just having a bit of a chat with Alison behind the scenes, getting to know her a little bit better, because this is the first time that her and I have met, but I have seen some of her amazing work. And I had actually specifically asked our show producer to reach out to Alison and because I wanted to have a bit of a chat with her about the work that she's been doing, about the fact that she's the creator of the Queen's Code. She's been working with adults in the space for a long, long time, for over 20 years, in fact, created loads of online courses, live workshops, etc., and really has been honed on partnerships and relationships. And I asked her to be here because, as you know, the Unlocked Show is a lot about business, family, and life. And encompassing all of that wraps around relationship. And, that piece that we need to get right, that we need to work a lot on, is the relationship piece. And I know that I've seen fairly recently, which is, played on my heartstrings a little bit, is a lot of marriages, dissolving, particularly in the entrepreneurial space. When I was just telling Alison that I've seen, a lot of entrepreneurs, marriages break up because over the period of time, and I find it really sad because as an entrepreneur, it takes a long time to get to a point where you are really successful. And somewhere along the line, you've often have a significant other that has been there by your side through thick and thin, and then you get to a certain point and somehow we end up on different pages. And I really wanted to have a conversation with Alison as to kind of like, how do we understand ourselves, like these men and women that we are, what makes us tick, how does that kind of happen, and what are some of the things that we can do to prevent that from happening, because we all start out wanting to have really strong relationships and we want to make sure that they continue. So I want to say welcome to the show, Alison. So fantastic to have you here. We are just going to take this wherever the conversation goes.
Well, there are so many different things that add up to what you're talking about. So I look forward to getting into it. And hello, Australia. I love Australia. The Queen's Code has been extremely popular in Australia since it was published in 2012. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks.
You're welcome. And like she's been an author of many books. But anyway, let's have a bit of tell us about this whole concept of like, how did you end up going down the path of, I'm going to crack this code on men and women? Like, how did that even come
up? Well, the 10-second version is 30 years ago. A man made a comment that had me get it in my bones that I had a heck of a lot to do with how men treated me. That he wasn't a type of man, wasn't a wonderful man or a terrible man. What if men are responding to women? And it's 30 years ago this month, I started studying men to find out what they're responding to. And I've never stopped, because what I learned about them blew my mind. it was so different than what I was raised to believe about who men are, including what men had to say about women. And because who they see in women, these magical, mystical creatures that are so worth putting up with a lot of meanness from, because of how much we do provide and can provide. So studying them transformed my relationship with both men and women and myself, and just the possibilities of us being partners with each other instead of being adversaries, which is what is normal. And what you're talking about, the breakdowns that happen in a marriage over time, has a lot to do with that we have opposing instincts, and we have a lot of expectations that are never asked for. Like, no one asks, okay, so tell me what you expect, right? And no one tells. And it's a basic human instinct: don't ask and don't tell. And entrepreneurs, as you know, if you're truly entrepreneurial, it doesn't matter that you achieved a certain level. You're going to create more and more and more. And often that person in the support position thinks that when you get to a particular point, you're going to stop being that way, and we're going to spend more time together, and we're going to enjoy the life that we made possible. And we're going to, there is an expectation that things will change. And entrepreneurs, my favorite entrepreneur is 81 years old, and he is not slowing down a bit, not even a bit, right? So there's a lot of things that go with it that we're not prepared for, and including how much we as human beings change over time, how much our hormones create our thoughts, and our thoughts create our hormones. All of this is just what I've been fascinated with for actually 40 years. So, but what I love is to be practical. So if I could offer Tracy some things to do to head off what could be inevitable, then I'm offering that. But I'll let you say whatever you want to say about what I've said so far.
No, look, it's one of those things. Now you've got me fascinated. So it's like, in the few minutes that we've been talking about, well, I want to know more, about this code, and what did you learn? Like growing up as a young girl, and just so you know too, very recently, Vicky Helm and I had written a book called The She Myth, and a lot of the stuff that you are talking about, like, we're growing up and we have this, we're taught certain things, and we grow up sort of understanding things in a certain way. And then as you've sort of delved deeper and you've gone, hang on a minute, I want to learn a little bit more about this, and you scratch the surface, and now there's more, and now there's more, and then you're down this big rabbit hole, and you're there and you've never come out. Like 30 years later, you've continued to delve in and dive in to try and understand this better. So often we look at things and we go, well, as we're growing up, it's a natural thing to do to be in a partnership, and that partnership, we start with from that point of view of, this is my understanding of what that should look like as I'm growing up. But as you've continued to sort of delve into this and understand men and women better from a much deeper place, is what I'm hearing. Like you've dug really deep to try and understand, hormonally, the testosterone and the estrogen that men and women have, and how that actually impacts on your mood and how we react to one another. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what were your findings there?
Well, oh boy, let's see. The short version of this, the short version, if you think of testosterone as the hormone of ambition, of focus, of achievement, of drive, energy, sex drive, a sense of well-being, right? This testosterone gives so much, and it's also the fuel for being focused. Okay, so focus. And men naturally have between 15 and 30 times more testosterone than women do. They have more and they burn more. Just as an example, when my husband and I were both on bioidentical testosterone replacement. As a pill, my dose was 2 milligrams a day. His dose was 200 milligrams a day. So testosterone is radioactive for women. Emotion spends an extraordinary amount of testosterone. It's one of the reasons that men want to have a grip on their emotions, because it exhausts them. And as we grow older, our testosterone levels change a lot, because half of a woman's testosterone comes from the ovum in her ovaries, which have disappeared dramatically by the time she's 35 years old. And all of a sudden we get tired when we didn't before. So there are so many things that affect this, like just cyclically, right? If a woman asks a man to just listen, that's like handcuffing him, right? He's a problem solver. He's like a racehorse that's in the gate and no one will open it and let him run. This is who I am and you're not going to let me be who I am. Well, if she does that too often, she's going to notice he gets antsy. Well, the enzyme aromatase is turning his testosterone into estrogen. He's being biologically emasculated. Where if all she did was said, can you help me? Can you help me by like just saying everything that's inside of me so I can get it out of me and I have some room to see you and hear you and be with you? Well, sure, right? Men always want to help. If they can, they will. It's one of the most amazing things about them. If you say, can you help me? They don't say that depends. A woman will say that depends. What do you need? You say to a man, can you help me? He says, yes. What? Right? So it's one of the things that I was born in 1960. So I was raised in a very confusing set of messages, right? That you had to have a man, but don't need him for anything, right? Mm-hmm. and they love to be needed, and so many times they've asked men, what had you marry your wife? They never said because she didn't need me. they always said a version of, well, she needed what I am. She wanted what I got. She wanted who I am. I knew I could make her happy. I knew I could take care of her. And so there's just so many things that get mixed up in this, right? The hormones and the mental state, and when we get our feelings hurt because we think they don't care about us, because we think they're ignoring us, when instead they're just being a testosterone-based creature who's naturally committed, and as soon as they have something to focus on, their brain screens out everything it considers irrelevant to what they focused on, including their wife. They didn't do that. Their brains did it for them.
Yeah, well, it's what's really interesting, right, is that for make an analogy here, but for an animal, you would say, it's very natural for that animal to do that because that's what they're designed to do. But very, infrequently do we say, well, as a male, that's actually what you're designed to do. That's what you're innately supposed to act that way. We kind of dismiss that, and that as humans, no, we don't have any of that. You're just supposed to do what you're supposed to do to please, to please everybody else. So it's fascinating that you should kind of, I'm hearing as you've done a lot of this research, this is really what you're finding is that there are some innate things that we as humans and as part of our DNA as men and women do. But equally, like is there a myth that, men should they have the testosterone, women have the estrogen, and you're supposed to act that way and they're supposed to act that way. But as you were rattling off some of those things that, from a testosterone point of view, drive and focus, and, I'm going, yeah, well, I have all of that. So, or a lot of that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that just as a man, you only have that, and as a woman, you only have that, right? So I could have a lot more testosterone than, say, the average woman because I'm really driven. Would that be true?
Well, there's even more choice involved than we know. So first of all, we think we're making choices from dawn to dark when mostly we're just acting out impulses that come from our instincts and our perceptions of threats and opportunities. But if we become aware of those, I call it human animal. So it's good that you use the word animal. The more we become aware of what's compelling us, every moment we are aware of being compelled is a moment we can choose to do something from our own values instead. And, one of the biggest choices for men and women to make to is to question their own impulses and question their own conclusions about another person, because we, both men and women, assume that the opposite sex does something for the reason they would. And so just as a woman thinks she's being ignored by a man when he's just focused, a man thinks he's being disrespected by a woman because she's not just paying attention to him. He doesn't know that estrogen configured her brain differently, and the amount of input she has from her environment is a stunning amount more than his. His brain screens extremely well. Her brain hardly screens at all. And so when we're distracted, men think we chose to do the other thing. They think that us turning off the boiling water on the stove while they were talking to us was us saying the boiling water is more important than you. They think we chose it. They have no idea who were pulled that way. And so, understanding we have different instincts because our brains are configured differently, because one brain was pickled in testosterone and the other was pickled in estrogen. That's one awareness. But then another awareness is that, we literally give to the other what we want. And a classic thing that destroys relationships between men and women is when a woman is upset, a man, out of respect, will leave her alone. Why? Because that's what he needs when he's upset. He wants to be left alone. Where a woman will come find him and try to get him to talk about it because she cares, which is what she wants him to do, right? So we're doing for the other. And men feel safe when they're productive, and women in what I call hunting mode, we feel safe when we're productive. Let me be productive. Let me be productive. Let me get some stuff done. And that's what has me feel good. I could totally relate to that. But when we're in a whole different mode, men included, what has us feel safe and content is feeling connected. And so men will try to connect with women when women are trying to be productive, and women will try to connect with men when the men are trying to be productive. And then we feel disrespected, and we feel our feelings hurt, and we feel like, they don't care about me, or she just doesn't think what I do is important. She doesn't appreciate it, or he doesn't appreciate it. He doesn't he know how many things are. All of this we take personally. We think it's our birth order, our ethnicity, our sun sign, our ex relationships. No, they're just opposing mentalities, a committed mentality and open mentality. And we both can have either one. And the more we know we can have either one, we can actually cause ourselves to be more open and available and connective, cause ourselves to be more focused and productive. We actually can choose all of it, but not until we know that we're almost choosing nothing.
So Alison, what are some of the things that we can do? I mean, we have a bit of a light-hearted, make it light-hearted. It's so true. Like as you're explaining all of that, I'm having a bit of a giggle to myself, because you can kind of see that all playing out in real life, right? It's legitimate and it happens. So to create a really, I suppose, not romantic, but an intimate relationship where you're just rock solid. You're on the same page. You're doing because often you hear people say we're just not on the same page. We're not on the same journey anymore, and that's the reason that things start to fall apart. How can you? What are some of the things that you can do to stay solid, to stay on the same page?
Okay, so I'll start with ways of being, and then things to ask and things to look for and things to express. Would that be useful?
That would be perfect.
Okay.
What do you guys reckon? We've got a bunch of people like listening in right now, and they're all chatting. So I want to know, do you guys think that would be useful? Do we want Alison to go there? Let me know. We're going to anyway.
Okay. So I would start by getting curious. Curious comes from the Greek word that means to care. So get curious about yourself, understanding yourself. What do I really need versus what do I think should just happen without me having to ask? What do I really need? What makes the biggest difference in my life? And then getting curious about the other person. So, honey, when you're great, when you're that person that I fell in love with, what allows you to be that way? What is it that has you be that way versus not? And you'll find out things like, oh, when I slept enough, when I went to bed by 10 o'clock, when I, went and moved my body first thing in the morning, or I meditated first thing in the morning, or I did the dishes first thing in the morning. There's things that people do first thing when they get up that literally can cause the human being they are for the rest of the day. Well, once we know what that is, then that's something to protect about them, right? Oh no, he's meditating, leave him alone. Oh no, she's washing the dishes, she's building next oxytocin. Don't go talk to her now. Right? So we can protect what we need to be the person we want to be, and we can help protect what they need. And then along that line, everybody needs support. Everybody wants support in a relationship. Most people complain that they don't get enough of it. Most people also complain that they're not appreciated for the support they provide. So there's this huge disconnect. And it has to do with, again, we'll provide the support in the form that we want. And we'll provide appreciation in the support that we want, instead of getting curious. Honey, what has you feel supported? What has you experienced being supported by me? What are the most important things I could do for you to know I support you? And then put the imaginary duct tape over your mouth and listen, instead of give multiple choice answers, which just upsets people, right? Or, honey, what has you feel the most appreciated by me? So this is the do ask, right? And then the do tell. Well, it's nice of you to have done that, but I feel appreciated when you say this. I feel appreciated when you touch me here, when you rub my back. I know you realize how hard I'm working, right? So those kinds of things that to us are obvious, and that's one of the biggest problems of being human. We think what's obvious to us is obvious to other people, so don't waste any energy saying it, right? So we have to state the obvious. Be curious, start stating the obvious, and be humble about it. I'm sorry if you already know this, but I don't want to be in danger of not stating something that would help you to understand me and be more successful with me. We all want to be successful with our partners. We want to win. We want everything we do to count. And then if you really want to do something amazing and you're courageous, the question to ask, and if we ask this question on a regular basis, we wouldn't have relationships that blow up. And you can ask this of your children, you can ask this of your business partners. And the question is there anything you need from me that you've given up on getting? And the prelude to that would be, is there anything you need from me that's just too hard to get? Because that's the thing they're about to give up on getting, right? So what do you need from me that you've given up on getting? What do you need from me that's just too hard to get from me? It just takes too much energy on your part to get it from me. And are you willing to hear that about yourself? Right? Are you willing to have someone go, you know what, you're lovely and you're not perfect for me? And have it be something, okay, so coach me. I want to work on that. I need your coaching. We need to commit to, you're going to give me clues. If I appear clueless, it's because you haven't given me enough clues. So if I rub your back like this, is that it? And be willing to speak up and say hard or soft or a little left to the right. There's all these things, especially women, but men do it too. We don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings. And so we don't ask, can I coach you on that? Can I give you a tip on what would have that be even more effective? And we all want to think we're perfect. So we don't ask to be coached. Yes, I will do that for you if you promise to keep coaching me until I have scored 1,000 points. Right? And I mean, if you just notice in our relationships how much we don't ask the person who knows the most about themselves to keep giving us the clues. We think we got to figure it out on our own. That's another human instinct. Anticipate. Women think anticipation is love. What if it's not? What if love is saying, honey, I'm doing this for you. Do you want me to do this for you? Actually, no. All right, now I've said a lot. What do you want to say about all that?
It's like I said, it's a fascinating conversation, but it's a really, really important one, because I think often this is something that a lot of people don't spend enough time on understanding, or each other. And all the things that you've brought up today, particularly those questions, I love them. Is there anything that you need from me that is just, you find it just too hard to get? And often we don't even think, we don't ask those questions. And like you say, we just kind of move through life thinking, well, he should know that. Like, I know that, so why don't you know that? We have that sort of mentality, and therefore then we get to this crossroad and go, look back and go, oh my God, I can't believe what happened. Like, how did we get here? How did this happen? But there's subtle little things that I suppose that are happening along the way, that had they had an opportunity to do some of these things that you've talked about today, then perhaps they wouldn't get to that crossroad and look back and say, I don't know how we got there here. This is not where we got married. This is not where I had envisaged our life and our life's journey together to end at this point, if we were to do some of these things. Now, I've got a lot of people actually asking, Alison, they want to read your book. So let's tell them where they can actually get a copy of your book, because they want to hear more. Where's the best place that they can go to hear more of Alison?
Well, there's several options. If you want our online curriculum, which we have over 100 hours that we put on before COVID, then go to AlisonArmstrong.com. If you want to read The Queen's Code, which was the book that I set out to write after I first stopped being what we call a frog farmer, someone who brings out the worst in men, that's available. It's only available as an ebook right now. It's been out of print actually for a couple of years, and but it's it's usually ranked less than 50, in relationships and love and commitment and stuff like that on Amazon. So that's another place to go. It depends on how you learn. Something else, given the context, you can get on Audible or on our website. It's called Celebrating Partnership. And it's a recording of our couples course, and that we used to do a retreat about. And it actually is the architecture, if you will, of a partnership, which partnership is not natural for human beings. It means to be on the same team. And if ever we're thinking, how can I get him to, or how can I get her to, we're not on the same team. And people think that all the time. So celebrating partnership is the beginning of actually just like the nuts and bolts. How do you get on the same team? How do you start with aligning on what are the values that are going to shape our lives? And we have this belief that if we have a strong connection, or if we really love each other, that there shouldn't be any work to do. No, really loving each other is, you're probably more honest with people you don't really love. You probably do more of what works with people that you aren't really in love with than you do with the people you're in love with. We're very protective. We become protective of our hearts, and we don't risk it by speaking up and speaking the truth. And it's the most necessary there. So honestly, I see people all the time blaming themselves, like their personal fault for their relationships not working. Very little of what has them not work is personal. Most of it is it's human, and then it's male and female, and then are we more of a committed, focused kind of way that we live life, or we're a more open and connective and playful way that we live life. There's so many things that determine our interactions that is so far before personality, right? Or history or experience or even injuries, right? I'm this way because, no, probably not. You're probably human.
And so if people were to, so that celebrating partners, is that a website? So if I, all right, I'm just going to
Celebrating
type this.
Partnership is a recording set that you can get on Audible, or you can get at AlisonArmstrong.com.
Righty-ho. Okay, so guys, just head over to AlisonArmstrong.com and you'll be able to get Alison's books, join any of her programs, or also check out the Celebrating Partnership audio that she's also got there. So today, Alison, I want to, before because I know we've got a hard stop here that we've got to get you off, and you've got another thing that you've got to get onto. So I wanted to just make sure that everybody also has an opportunity to follow you. So we've given them one place, which is to go to AlisonArmstrong.com, because the comments that are coming through, people want to learn more about you. There's obviously a lot more. This is quite in depth. It's 30 years worth of research, information that you have been collecting over this period of time. So you've got a wealth of knowledge. And for those, I would encourage to go and, spend some more time in Alison's world, understand this so that you too can formulate better relationships just with yourself and with those around you. So can they catch up with you on any social media?
Yeah, our Facebook is understandmen.com. Instagram is the Alison Armstrong. They can go there. If you want to do something that will change your perspective entirely as a man or a woman, I would go to our website, AlisonArmstrong.com, and we have an event that's finishing up tomorrow night, but right below that, there's a free sample of our Understanding Women course, which is where most men and women should start. And it will lays out the biggest thing we have to understand about what drives women's behavior. Or yesterday, somebody asked me, what do I do? And I said, well, I teach women how not to be mean to men, and I teach men how to not make women want to be mean to them. And that's one way to put what I do. But we don't realize that we're bringing out the worst in each other, and we are. But we could stop. We could stop doing that, and we could actually bring out the best in each other. And then it's magic.
And that's what we all want. And I can see that, the glow on your face just says it all, because you're obviously living, what you preach, and it really does show. So guys, head on over to AlisonArmstrong.com, go to the events page, and then further down on that events page, there's the free sample of the program. And
it's right on the homepage, right there on the homepage.
Yeah. Right, bang on that page. So head on over there. I want to say thank you so much, Alison. It's been really interesting chatting with you today. I'm fascinated by your work. I know that a lot of our guests that are also watching are also fascinated, because they are commenting crazily on the panel here, and we'll make sure that they have access to all of those freebies that you have mentioned today, and that they get an opportunity to spend some more time in Alison's world. But I want to thank you so much for being a wonderful guest today, sharing all of your life's work, and what you're doing to really get to help people to understand themselves, and also to create really fulfilling relationships with themselves and also with others. So thank you so much for being here on the Unlock Show, and no doubt we will be chatting some more. Thank you for being here. Thanks everybody else for being here.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome. We'll be back again on Friday, 10 a.m. Brisbane, Australia time, with another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. Been my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Bye for now.